you and good afternoon. I am Antonice Warwick, a longtime district resident currently residing in Ward 5. I am excited to join Mayor Bowser for the launch of the DC Career Map pilot program. I found myself facing a housing crisis after experiencing domestic violence in a previous relationship. After deciding to end that relationship, I sought safety for myself and my family and lived with relatives for about 6 months. After which, I visited the Virginia Williams Family Resource Center, where I was connected to stable and safe housing. I am a domestic violence survivor and work hard every day to achieve the goals I've established for my family and to advance my career. Currently, I am working as a cashier at a local sandwich shop in the district. Next, I want to become a public servant and work for the District of Columbia government, helping people just as I've been assisted through local government resources and programs. As I work to reach and exceed the career goals I've set for myself, I look forward to taking advantage of the new tools and resources offered through the DC Career Map program. And now, I would like to welcome to the podium our Mayor of Washington, D.C., Mayor Muriel Bowser.
Good luck to you. Well, let's give Antonice a big round of applause. Thank you for doing that. And thank you for working hard and where DC is hiring. I say that in all of my remarks. And we're looking for people who are just as committed to the district as we are and as our residents expect. dchr.dc.gov. So that goes out to everybody. I also want to acknowledge and welcome our council members who are here. Your host council member, Councilmember Janice Lewis-George. Please give her a round of applause. And our Ward 1 council member who chairs the council's Committee on Human Services and Ward 4, a neighbor to Ward 4 and Ward 1, Councilmember Brianne Nadeau. Give her a big round of applause. So, we have been very focused on a number of innovative programs that DC government and the Department of Human Services have launched in recent years. Just last week, we were all together at the Convention Center for my 5th annual Maternal and Infant Health Summit, where we talked about the importance of economic mobility and the role it plays in creating healthy outcomes for babies and families. So we highlighted Strong Future, Strong Families, which has provided 132 new moms with $900 a month to spend as they see fit to help their families in the very critical first year of a baby's life. We talked also about how we announced just last month that we were able to provide 15,000 TANF families with $1,000 in cash to help them get their kids off to a good start for the school year. How's your school year coming along? And now we're here in Ward 4 on Taylor Street, which has been a long-time location for our human services. It's an outpost of human services in Ward 4. And this is in a couple of weeks, it will reopen again. It has, when we closed during COVID, we kept it closed so that we could do this fantastic renovation, which we know will serve DC residents better. Isn't it lovely? So we're back on Taylor Street. And so now we are also focused on the transformation of the spectrum of services that we have offered homeless families in DC. And though that transformation has led us since 2016 to be able to drive family homelessness down by 78%. And we've made that progress because in addition to closing down DC General and building smaller service-enriched shelters across the city, DHS has also created a robust set of tools and they've done an amazing job to prevent homelessness and to help families exit homelessness. So now we are adding a new tool that will continue to help families who have experienced emergencies like you just heard. And these are, regular people, DC residents, your sisters, brothers. They have kids, they have families, they have hopes, they have dreams, they have ambitions. So these are people we're talking about, our neighbors. And we help them launch off after they have experienced some kind of an emergency or change in their life. So the DC Career Mobility Action Plan, or DC Career Map, is the next step. So this pilot we're feeling very good about, and it fills an important gap in our toolbox. It's a 5-year program targeted at helping the vast majority of families who are in our system that don't require permanent housing vouchers, but who do need more time and more support to get back on their feet. It also addresses what some of you have heard called the benefits cliff. And what this means is that when people who are enrolled in one of our benefits programs, and you know how it works, you know that a lot of people get stuck in the unfortunate situation where they have to choose between advancing their careers and getting a job, or keeping their benefits. And sometimes it has turned out that the benefits are worth more than their job. And so we need to address that in our city. We can't change the federal rules around eligibility for benefits, but we can and we are creating a new program that helps fill that gap. And that is what Career Map is all about. With Career Map, we're telling families that we've got your back, but we want you to continue to earning, learning, and growing so that you will be able to handle all of the things that those benefits have covered. So if you end up losing benefits, we're going to help make up for that loss of benefits. We can provide more in rent support, for example. We can get you up to $10,000 in cash. In addition to providing career support, we're going to help you find programs to enroll your children, and we're even going to help you save, because for every month you pay your portion of the rent, we'll put $200 in a savings account. So we're very excited about this next step to help our families gain more economic independence. So we're also excited because we get to make it bigger, even as it's getting started. We had 1,500 families apply to be in this pilot program, and we were funded to work with 300 families in the pilot. And 300 families have been randomly selected to participate in the first cohort. I'm excited that we will be able to announce that in 2023, we will add an additional 300 families. So for families who weren't selected, we still have a wide range of programs for your support, and we will help you stay connected through DHS when this center opens even closer to where many people live on October 3rd. So I want to thank our team at DHS led by Laura Zeilinger. They've had an incredibly busy 2022. Well, they're busy every day. They're busy every day working with DC residents. And we know that with the additional cash assistance programs that we are crafting, career coaching, and family support, that we're doing all the things that we need to make sure our very talented, ambitious, creative, hardworking DC residents can find their pathway as well with these services. So Laura and team at DHS, let's give them a big round of applause. And with that, we're going to hear from several speakers now. Our council members, Councilmember Louis George and Councilmember Nadeau, followed by Director Zeilinger and Director Keith Anderson, who will tell us all about this beautiful building, and then we'll be able to take some questions. I do want to acknowledge that we've been joined by our Director of the Department of Energy and the Environment, Director Tommy Wells as well. So with that, I'll turn to Councilmember Louis George.
Thank you. Good afternoon and welcome to the beautiful Ward 4. I am excited to join Mayor Bowser, Director Zeilinger, and my council colleague, Brianna Doe, who chairs our Human Services Committee. The work of our Department of Human Services is about giving our residents a hand up when times are tough. And over the past 2 years, so many residents have had to reach out, and Department of Human Services has been right there to answer that call. This center is so beautiful. I remember coming here when I was younger with my godmother, with my aunties, and it's a beautiful space. And I love how welcoming it is. I love that you have a station here for children. Many people who are coming and give services will have young kids with them. And the work that Human Services Committee does and the workers that will be here, when people are coming in these doors, many of them are going through tough times. They have reached a space in their life where they need help. And you all are their lifesavers. So I want to say to the workers who are going to be here every day, meeting people where they are, sometimes when people come in, it won't always be easy. You know, they may take out frustrations because they're going through real life things, but you are there and you meet them with your heart and with your grace and giving them a hand in government. And that's what this is about. And so I just want to say thank you to all of the workers who work in the Department of Human Services, but those who will be working in this center particularly. You are going to be the front face for government to say, we see you, we care about you, we love you, and we are going to help you get back on your feet. I want to say that this program is going to really help a number of Ward 4 families. We know there's at least more than 15% of our Black families here, and Latinx families are below the poverty line, and so this will be a great resource for them. And they will be able to come right here, and they won't have to go downtown or any other place, and so we are bringing resources to them. We know this community also has some language barriers. We have a large Spanish-speaking community. We have a large Amharic-speaking community, and sometimes it's difficult to do these things over the phone. And so having this center here means that those families who may struggle with some of those language barriers can come here and get the service and get the help and make it less complicated for them. So on behalf of Ward 4, we are so happy to have this resource here. We look forward to working with all of the employees here at Taylor Street and continuing to work with Director Zeilinger and the mayor and all the work that's going to be done here. So thank you again, and I will now call up my Ward 1 colleague, who also residents will be able to enjoy this center as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Louis George and Mayor Bowser. It's so great to be here with you all today in person. This is not just a building. This is a space where families come when they are in need and perhaps in their lowest moment. And it's so important that this space is welcoming and beautiful and dignified and accessible. Since day one, when Mayor Bowser and I came into office, we have worked together through her Department on Human Services to make benefits more accessible, to make the experience at service centers more easy for people, more humane and more dignified. And this opening today is a reflection of that work that's been done steadily and very deliberately over the last 8 years. So thank you, Mayor Bowser. I commend you and your team for that work and that deliberative work. During COVID, when we closed the centers, DHS was forced to innovate, to take things online, to take things by phone, to launch an app, to really grow and stretch in so many ways. We should commend them for that too. And as we have begun to emerge from the pandemic, it's become clear every day how much being together and being in person matters. And being together helps us heal. And so being able to come back into this space and talk with people face to face and feel heard and feel valued is critical to ensuring we continue our mission to serving every resident that needs access to benefits. This location in particular has always been a hub for Alliance participants. Our immigrant community who are undocumented, but here in DC are still eligible for health care benefits, which is such an important value for us and something that we have continued to uphold and strengthen each year. Council and Mayor Bowser have worked together to make it easier and easier to access Alliance benefits, and that is something we should all be proud of. But here at Taylor Street, this is a cornerstone. It's something the team here works very diligently on. It's something Alliance participants know they can get what they need when they come to Taylor Street. So I'm so thrilled that we are reopening and really closing that loop and making sure that our Alliance participants have everything they need in a place that they are most comfortable. So thank you for that as well. Of course, we are also celebrating the expansion of Career Map, which is just such an exciting program. And it's been said a couple times, but I'm going to emphasize it again. There's such a great need and high demand for helping people exit poverty here in the district with the tools that they need. We have so many tools, but we don't always have the right tools to help people. Mayor Bowser explained the benefits cliff and why it's important that we're supporting families who maybe don't need a full subsidy, but they just need a little more help. And that's what this program does. It's also part of a bigger picture. When we fund housing programs in the district, we tend to focus on the most vulnerable residents, folks who are still struggling, but not eligible for our deepest subsidies are still in need. And that's where this program helps. So while we continue to work together to preserve and build more affordable housing and more housing in general in more places across the entire district, Career Map allows us to keep more families that just can't wait for those units to come online safely housed. So thank you, Mayor Bowser, for expanding this program. Thank you to the dedicated team at the Department of Human Services for your hard work and these efforts, and thank you all for your partnership. And now, Director Laura Zeilinger.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Laura Zeilinger, Director of the Department of Human Services. I want to thank our mayor, our council members, Councilmember Nadeau, and Councilmember Louis George, and I definitely acknowledge Anise Work for your gracious introduction of our mayor. This is a fantastic day, and I want to just start because the foundation, the two things we're announcing here, they make our jurisdiction different than a lot of places. And they come from our willingness to be both self-critical and tell the truth. So I'm going to share a quote with you. It's a quote I found by William Faulkner that says, "Never be afraid to raise your voice for honesty and truth and compassion against injustice and lying and greed. If people all over the world would do this, it would change the earth." So today's announcement is in celebration or generative of people who courageously and persistently spoke truth to leadership, and that we have leadership who listens. So here's some of what this means. When we don't speak truth, what people then fill in are myths. Myths then persist, and people who benefit from lies, those lies get perpetuated. So myths and stereotypes often suggest that people are just lazy and they don't want to work, and they're not trying hard enough, and we could all just pull ourselves up by our bootstraps, but what they don't acknowledge is the history that we are not all starting from the same place, and the oppression and a lot of the structural barriers that are baked into our systems and policies that need to shift. When often, people have acknowledged this throughout, people come to DHS, they are at a personal low. And it's difficult for them, and they experience anxiety and fears walking through our doors. When they walk into a place that is dark and dreary, it feels like no one cares about them. When they can walk into a place that is bright, says that we, just as Councilmember Louis George said, we love you, we care about you, that's consistent with our values. It creates a different experience and it sends a different message about the values we place on our residents. And people come not because they want to come, they come because of the trade-offs, because they know they need some support to provide to their children. That should not have to come with a sense of shame, and it helps when they experience a welcome and a caring when they come here. So our hope is when people walk through our doors, what they feel is relief, a relief that this is a place that conveys a sense of worthiness and welcome, and where they're efficiently and effectively assisted to get the thing that they came for. We have, and the mayor talked about this, made dramatic improvement, different from really everywhere else in our nation, at ending family homelessness. And it's not because rent is more affordable than it used to be, or wages have caught up to rents for most people, but it is because we have been willing to tell the truth about our systems and do that systems change. To say that it's not the weather that causes homelessness and that people need a safe place to go every day of the year if they, and they shouldn't have to wait until it's cold outside in order to access shelter. And when we closed DC General and designed our short-term family housing program, similarly, we created spaces that connoted a sense of worthiness and we care about you. And it's those same values that we see here, and our partners at DGS helped us realize in those buildings and these that say something different and reflect our values. And it makes a difference. So in our new short-term family housing programs, our goal was to get our length of stay down from about where it was around a year to under 90 days. And I'm proud to share with you that our lengths of stay there now are hovering around 60 days. So that is, right? Because what the myth is if you make it too nice, people will never leave because then they would have to pay rent. But the reality is people want a home of their own where they can provide for their children. So similarly, we're so excited about this space because we know that when people come here, they come here not because they don't care about working and they don't want to try hard, but because something's going on, and and this building, this layout, completely takes into account their experience. So instead of queuing on the block, there are spaces when you walk in where people can line up inside, outside of the weather and without having to be exposed on the street. So there's inside queuing is a really important feature. We've got a play area where children can occupy themselves with books and games and bright spaces while they're waiting with their parents. We have much more light and windows and bright colors and enhanced lighting throughout that create a different experience. So that aesthetic just matters. It matters there in how we serve. There are kiosks and computer stations. And now that we have some of the technology, people, if they come and they just need some assistance but want to learn how to do their work with our agency online to do their recertifications or their applications, they can do that here too. And then if next time they want to be able to do it from a library or from their own home or what have you, they'll be able to do that as well. There are conference rooms, huddle rooms, there are wellness rooms for our staff, and thank you for speaking about the opportunity and experience that our staffs have here. Also in this building, the LIHEAP program with the Department of Energy and Environment led by Director Wells, their team will be able to welcome that back in, and in the tour after, you'll see their space. Our Office of Work Opportunity has space here as well where we connect our families who are in our TANF program with all kinds of supports that they need. So I want to really thank Director Anderson and your team for this beautiful space. I want to thank our Capitol team as well, Lisa Kelly and her entire team for all of the work that you did. And we have, as you come through, many of our partners here today who do work with us and work in our service centers, many of our employer partners, Aussie, and we work closely with them in our child care program, and that will be here as well. So I'm going to share another quote with you. It's only she who's ready to question, to think for herself, will find the truth, to understand the currents of the river. He who wishes to know the truth must enter the water. This is a quote by somebody who I'm going to mispronounce their name, I'm sure, Nisargadatta, who's an Indian mystic who was born in 1897. And I love that quote because it really talks about being in the experience and really walking in the shoes and really thinking critically, which is what we needed to do and was the foundation of our Career Map program. So this $24.8 million program that we're now growing to, this investment, is huge because it does remove the barrier that are baked into our systems and structures that people experience when they are trying to earn their way out of poverty. Very early on, like almost 8 years ago at my first Workforce Investment Council meeting, one of the employer partners turned to me and said, "You have got to do something about the policies around your benefit programs because I'm hiring people, I am training people, and they are quitting because they cannot afford to be promoted or take more hours." And as I looked at, well, what does that mean and what would it look like to change it because we don't make they're like a whole intersection of food assistance, cash assistance, medical assistance, subsidized childcare, subsidized housing, and when those rules come together, they create financial penalties to earning. So how are you supposed to pull up yourself from your bootstraps if you have to choose between being on the street again and taking a raise, right? That's not actually a choice. And with this program, nobody has to make that choice. Thank you. That is worth clapping about. And let me tell you how complicated, it has taken us, and I want to acknowledge Jeff King and his team, Noah Abraham from our Homeless Services for Families division, how much thinking and calculation we engaged with the Federal Reserve out of Atlanta, who helped us do all of the financial modeling around what it would look like to do this. And there's a lot of complicated math, but at the end of the day, it just means that today you cannot get here from there, tomorrow you've got that bridge, and there is an actual pathway to the middle class without those barriers. So I am ecstatic that when we looked at the interest, that people said, okay, this is what I've been waiting for, this is what I've been asking for, and we had so many applicants for 300 slots, and I went to the mayor and said, let's go bigger, that she said yes, that we're gonna make a bigger investment and we are gonna work now instead of with 300 families, with 600 families in this program. So what we get to say to the families is, and it says in this quote, is when you enter the water, we're gonna enter the water with you. We're gonna be there, we're gonna support you and be with you over a 5-year period. As you really have a meaningful opportunity, we have our partners here from our Workforce Investment Council, Anna Smith, who has been, and we're so excited about the intersection between our career pathways and all of the different training programs that help people on their way and the access that they will have to have not just a job, but a career that is going to provide for their families. We also worked very closely with the DC Lab and the City Administrator's Office, who is also here, on how to construct this program. And the last thing I just want to say about the Career Map program, which I am particularly so proud of my team about, is we didn't just do this with financial models and talking to each other, but we listened to the voices of families in our programs. We did countless interviews and focus groups, and every policy decision we made it after talking to people to say, what would this look like for you? So this is a program like the buildings that we've designed with our design requirements that is designed and centered around the voices of our residents in our program, treating them as they are, as experts in their own lives and what they need and their families need. And we are so excited to be with families as they unleash their dreams and talents toward their futures with their families. So I just could not be more thrilled to celebrate this milestone with you today. Thank you. With that, I'm turning it to Director Randall.
How about another applause for Director Zeilinger and her entire team? Kudos to your team. You guys are doing excellent work on behalf of district residents. I couldn't be more proud of you and your team, so thank you. And good afternoon, everyone. What a great day to start the week. with a double announcement that richly and directly supports residents of the District of Columbia. I'm Keith Anderson, Director of the Department of General Services, and I'm proud to once again partner with our partners at Department of Health and Human Services and the Department of Energy and Environment on this project today. We are pleased to have negotiated the 15-year lease with Hamilfar Properties, LLC, on behalf of the District of Columbia. So I want to thank the DGS Portfolio Management Division and our legal team for negotiating and securing this lease. I want to thank owner David Preston for his deep commitment to service for district residents for many, many years. We also know that Hamilfar surpassed their 35% CBE compliance by coming in at 50% CBE compliance on the construction of this project, thereby keeping business right here in the District of Columbia. So thank you for that. I believe that architecture has a place in the human condition. The buildings we step into should support the business that people need to accomplish when they visit. Right here, the district is supporting an important need with the renovation of this facility. In this space, families will be served with the new training and conference center. They will be served in a comfortable waiting area that offers a relaxing setting, while children are occupied in a designated area, which is actually right here to my left. There are kiosk stations where residents can process online applications and many, many more things. And through Mayor Bowser's leadership, together, we have created a place where service, dignity, and support that everyone can feel and have a better chance to reaching the middle class. Staff members will be able to enjoy wellness rooms, added meeting spaces, and additional phone rooms. And to top it off, a new central monumental staircase that you'll see improves the flow of operation between DHS and DOEE departments. This is a location and project that all of us here today can be proud of. Thank you, everyone, for coming together for the greater good. And with that, Mayor Bowser, I'll turn the microphone back over to you.
Well, thank you, everyone, once again. And I want to share my thanks to all of my teams at Human Services, at DGS, at the Department of Energy and the Environment. And I also want to thank the council for their continued support of what have been some pretty bold, very bold ideas that we have seen over the course of almost 8 years come to fruition. So I'm very proud of that too. So we'll take a few questions from the press, and I'll take a few community questions, and then we will take a tour. Any press questions? Yes, Mark?
Yeah, and I apologize, I didn't catch your last name.
Laura,
but,
can you come up, please?
If we could hear from Antonice, is that her name?
Yes,
I apologize, I didn't catch your last name. If we could just ask her, what this means, the $10,000 and this program support for her family, what this actually means for her family going forward. Thank you.
This actually just means more stability. Like they said, once you have to choose between either paying out of pocket for food or, keeping your benefits. And for the most part, I definitely rather keep my benefits because the price of the food has gone up. But it would definitely help with the stability. Maintain it anyway.
Any other questions? Michael?
Yeah, hi, Mayor Bowser. I wanted to ask about the enrollment period for the first 300 families. Have they started getting benefits yet? And if not, when will those arrive? And then what's the criteria for applying and getting selected, since you mentioned there were 1,500 and only 300 could be chosen initially?
So because we were not able to serve everybody, we did this through a lottery process with families in our Family Rehousing Stabilization Program, our rapid rehousing for families. So people applied to that lottery who are in our FRSP program. We enrolled an initial 300, and they are all enrolling before the end of September. Most are enrolled now. And then we will, from that same lottery, pick the next 300 families.
Thanks. Just a follow-up. Guessing about cash assistance programs in general, you mentioned at the top there have been quite a few that you've introduced, launched pilot programs that get cash directly in the hands of families who need it. Can you talk about that approach and strategy? Why that approach?
Well, we know the barrier for a lot of people from dealing with their emergency, moving on, and being able to get life-sustaining jobs is cash. That's what it is. And we have developed over systems of years so many different programs that's surrounded by a lot of bureaucracy and hoops that aren't efficient and don't necessarily help families advance. And a lot of that has to do with not trusting people, or some of the other myths that Laura mentioned earlier, that we think that they have to prove that they are deserving of the help that these programs are designed to foster. And so where we think that cash can make the difference, and we have some early research around one of our programs that suggests that it's working in the ways that we intended. And I think this program will give us more information. And we also have, and let's be clear, over the last couple of years, an infusion of dollars that have allowed us to advance in some of these ways. Yes, Sam.
Mayor, okay. Tomorrow, the DC Council will be considering your legislation on migrants, and I don't think this applies to them. Doesn't sound like it at all. But nevertheless, you've introduced it. Are you hoping this is, what are your thoughts about how this is going to work, assuming they get it passed tomorrow?
Well, I think that they will get it passed tomorrow, and the chairwoman who is introducing on my behalf is here. And we are already operating under a public emergency that I declared, I guess it's been about 10 days ago, that puts the framework in place that we need. We haven't had a system in our government structure that will allow us to support migrants that have been bused here, that have been paroled to the United States, but are not, that are moving around the United States. We don't have a system to deal with humanely and efficiently. And that's what this office will allow us to do, and these sets of services will allow us to do.
And I understand this is like a $10 million program. How is it going to be, funded
as I mentioned, Sam, when I introduced it, I'm going to make a withdrawal of contingency cash from our cash reserves. I expect that most, but not all, but most of the services that we will provide will be reimbursed to us by FEMA. And I say most, maybe not all, because there are a lot of restrictions on how those dollars can be used. Yes.
If I could follow up on that line of questioning. So your legislation carves out the asylum seekers as, I don't know if a separate class is the right terminology, but it separates them from most people and everybody else who experiencing homelessness or other crisis who would be able to walk into a center and get pretty much anything the city has to offer. You're limiting them as to what services they'll actually qualify for. And I'm just wondering, the thought behind that. Why limit this group of people, separate them out from everyone else who might seek services from the district, and limit them as to what is available to them?
Well, we think that the needs that people are presenting with are different. And we need to set up some temporary services to serve directly what they need. Our DHS programs and services, whether that are provided at this center or all throughout the homeless services system, are designed for DC residents who are experiencing emergencies, or DC residents who need to change their trajectory. And just like you heard from Anthony. So that's what these programs are for. And what the Migrant Services Office will allow us to do is to have a humane presence that has a staffing presence mostly to deal with what has become a chaotic situations of buses coming anytime, anywhere, with people who have been, quite frankly, lied to from where they came from. And so people are confused, they need to reset, and they need to be able to move on.
You just mentioned dropping them off anywhere. Are you prepared for the possibility that they may drop a bus off in front of your home in your neighborhood?
You know, I don't talk about security at my home, Mark. Yeah. What about them?
I'm just wondering, I mean, is that something that you think is a possibility that they may do?
Unfortunately, my neighbors have endured demonstrations and protests, especially over the last 2 years. Yeah.
I was going to ask something similar, Mayor Bowser. From the Conference of Mayors meeting you just had, was there any kind of a response to the dropping off of migrants or asylum seekers at, say, the Vice President's residence here in the district? Any kind of statement or any response?
Well, my message to the U.S. conference was, don't think this is a D.C. issue, because this is a national issue. And the nation's mayors need to be prepared with a response, and the nation's mayors need more from the federal government. What we know, I'm responsible for a lot of things as mayor, but I don't have any control over national immigration policy. And we know at the bottom line is that we need a fair system where that's predictable along the border, but we also need a fair system for the millions of people who live here already. And so that is going to take a change in a comprehensive immigration reform at the national level, and that's got to happen. We need it for DC residents as well. So we know that has to happen. But we also need the federal government to do more coordination, and we know that they can do it. They do it with Afghan refugees. They do it with refugees from Ukraine. They've done it with children that were separated from their parents at the border, whereas the federal government who is coordinating movements and facilitating better housing and facilitating sped up access to work permits. So that's what we need. And I shared this with the mayors. What you don't need is, like, what if this was 50 cities, 100 cities all competing? We'll be like COVID. We'll be competing with each other for resources. We'll be trying to get workers. We're trying to get workers. A lot of that money that you mentioned was to get people. Because people that work for DHS, this is what they do every day. So we need people that are going to help us deal with an influx of an unknown number of people who are seeking asylum in the U.S. So that's what this emergency is about. That's why it's so important that the council speaks with me with one voice, that we have built a system that is robust and that is showing that it can work for DC residents to move them from poverty and put them on a pathway to the middle class. We can't disrupt that. In fact, we're doubling down. We're doing more today. We want more people. We've recognized a big gap in that pathway, and this program helps to fill that gap. I can take 3 community questions. Any community questions? Yes.
I can stay seated.
You too.
Hey, how's it going?
Good.
My name's Carlos. I had a comment, and I did want to change kind of our focus back to Washington, D.C., like you said, and the residents that live here as well. Being from D.C., I'm overjoyed to see that there's so much investments in the community going on, and there's so many pilot programs that's always happening. But I also want to draw attention to that we need a lot of, we need memory as well as our will today, and to knowing that, throughout the pandemic, during the pandemic and before the pandemic, we got a lot of lessons where, some things were virtually shut down already. A lot of things weren't exactly working for a lot of members of the community already. I'm mentioning specifically the disabled community, or maybe people who became disabled during the pandemic or during the emergency. I'm just hoping that a lot of the lessons we're learning through the pilot programs are also being effectively applied to the disabled community, to the aging community, and as you said, residents that already live here. etc. In my experience, I'm a community support worker for many residents in the community down in Ward 8, Ward 7, and Ward 5 and 6 as well. And, you know, a lot of this great stuff.
What's your question, dear?
My question?
Yep.
How can we focus efforts that you guys are presenting today in this lovely new facility and the new pilot programs? How can we take some of those lessons and increase our effectiveness with the disabled community, the senior community, and the long-term residents of the rest of the city?
Okay, so I think that's what we've been talking about. We've been talking about all of those groups in our announcement today. This service center and connections to DHS, we think are better facilitated here. The things, I think when the council members mentioned that we did well during the pandemic, I think Laura still maintains a lot of those virtual opportunities as well, which a lot of members of our disabled community have found worked well for them, including more job opportunities, because some work is virtual. That was a long question, so I have a long answer. And so we think that works for them as well. We have had a number of announcements around our senior community, especially related to food and other things. So I think what the focus here is on our residents who have been involved in some of our benefits program, now our rapid rehousing program, getting the ramp that they need to independence. And I think that's a lot to celebrate. Thank you. All right, let's take a tour. Thank you, everybody. We're going to cut a ribbon.